The Graphic Histories Podcast.
I got bitten by a radioactive bug. I tried an experimental drug. Went up for a stroll on a gamma testing range. I found an enchanted hurricane. I made a serum that made me small. I modified the serum so it would make me tall. Radioactive isotope in my eyes. Dying alien helped me accessorize. I gained the proportion and strength of a spider. Now I'm invincible and I can fly. I lost my sight, my other senses were heightened. I'm gonna put on my pajamas and go fight crime.
Hey, it's that time again, and that time is, of course, the Graphic Histories Podcast. I am your host, André. Big thanks to Ukla the Mock for our theme song, Superpowers. And big thanks to you, gentle listener, for tuning in once again after we had a week off. I don't get to do those often, and by get to, I mean have to. Unfortunately, this summer has been quite busy. Things are like opening up crazy because of, life getting back to normal after COVID. And for that reason, weekends are booking up with wrestling. And, I am married still, so me and my wife will like to do things together occasionally. I'm in a play, which got pushed back because of COVID earlier. So there are a lot of things going on, a lot of irons in the fire, a lot of doings going on, a transpiring, if you will. And because of that, it was hard to schedule to get this episode in. However, it's done. It's here. And I'm talking with a good friend of mine, John Roy, who is one of the creators of Geeks versus Nerds, an online and debate trivia show, and subsequent podcast that came out of that as well that he created with Andrew Dorfman, also known as Pig Monkey. There's a whole other story behind that. Maybe someday I'll have Andrew on the show and he can explain it. So I had John on. He does these wonderful cosplay music videos. He does music videos for local artists in Nova Scotia here and is trying to expand upon that as well. But he's a good friend and a really cool guy. And a lot of interesting stories. We had a great talk about his sort of living in England and the fast-paced career of the stock trade in England and various things like that. So you're in for a real treat, a real fun conversation with John Roy. And like other people of his ilk and my ilk that grew up in Nova Scotia, the nerd community here, we have some fun kind of reminiscences of what it took to be a nerd back in the day when comic stores were few and far between, and the only place you could find your local comics were at the old convenience store, or pharmacy, or something that sold magazines, basically. So it was fun talking to John about that. As far as the going on in my life, not a whole lot. I mean, I'm trying to catch up on some of the shows. I'm into Stranger Things right now, which I'm really enjoying. Haven't had a chance to watch Obi-Wan yet, but I am, because I want to watch it with my wife. We generally watch the Star Wars shows together. So once I have a little bit of time, we will be doing that. A big announcement, and not even that big, but just personally, as I no longer eat red meat. I've been toying with the idea of becoming vegetarian for a while. I'm not quite there yet, but I am an animal lover, and I'm finding it harder and harder to justify eating them just because they taste good. Birds, I'm okay with at the moment, just because I feel like at an intellectual level, chickens anyway are don't seem highly intelligent to me. Certainly not to the level of pigs or cows or other mammals of that like. So just birds and meat substitutes are what I'm on right now. So not a lot of bird even. It's mostly just like the Impossible meat or that sort of stuff, which I've actually grown a real taste for. It fits real well into stir fries and other things like that I like to eat prior to going to the gym. On top of the fasting, it's been helping with just keeping weight down while I'm working out. Not that I'm generally a super heavy guy. I have a big frame, but, like anybody, could always stand to be a little leaner. So, working out, do that sort of thing. Been working out for a long time. Never quite felt like I look like I do to the extent that I do, but diet is a big part of that. So I'm strong. I just want to look a little better like I fit the amount of weight I can lift. So we're coming with that. Not to brag or humble brag. I guess it kind of sounded like that, but that wasn't the intent. And aside from that, just want to remind you, and I usually do it at the end of the show, I want to do it at the start because my co-host on the X-Rated X-Men Anime Review show has given me a little bit of shit lately for not promoting it on this show, which I did do last week, and I'm trying to remember to do on this show. It's a really fun podcast that I have a great affinity for. I'm really happy for Davin to have hooked me to do it, and we've pretty much every week a lot of fun doing the show in which we just sort of talk about the X-Men show from the 90s, the Fox one. We watch an episode, we talk about it, we review it, we make selections and recommendations based on the episode, and we just get into the thick of it. It's a deep nostalgia dive, but it's a ton of fun, and I think you should listen. I usually have links to that on my show, but you can check us out on social media. It's called X-Rated, the X-Men Animated Review Show. Also available on anywhere you find podcasts. We do a lot. We do record it live over video on Tuesday evenings, but you can always find the audio-only version if you don't want to stare at my ugly mug for an hour and a half. We have lovely guest hosts, some of which have been on the show before. Davin, I've had on the show before, who is my co-host, but we also have David Cutler, who had a great two-part conversation with here, and others as well. And speaking of David, be sure to check out the X-Men, Uncanny X-Men special, Thunderbird, giant-sized X-Men special, Thunderbird, which just came out not too long ago, which is drawn by David and features his redesign of the costume and the new continuity, reincorporating the character of Thunderbird back into the X-Men universe after his death, shortly after his first appearance way back when they shook up the original lineup for the X-Men. So that's really fun, really exciting, and a really, really fun read. Really, really fun read. I really enjoyed it, and I'm excited to see where they're going to go with it. And David, of course, just recently has been announced as the artist on Moon Girl and the X-Men, which looks like a really fun series as well. So very excited for all that. I love the people that I've made connections with, in life and also through the show, to see them doing well and being out there. Another couple of guests on the show that are doing well right now is Troy and Brenda Little, who have just recently reached the Kickstarter on their new book, The Butterfly House, which I happily backed, and I'm eagerly waiting arrival whenever that happens. So big thumbs up for that. Very excited to read that. I love their last project, and I'm excited to see what's coming next. So they're working together on this one instead of just separately, and it looks like a really cool little joint effort on their part. So I'm super excited to read that. But I'm also very excited for you to tune into this episode and hear my conversation with John Roy. So enough talking, as I often do, talking away about frivolous nerd things. Let's get into the conversation. So here is my talk with Geeks vs. Nerd creator, music video creator, and good friend, John Roy. You're coming from a hazy bunker somewhere deep in the Amazon.
Yeah, pretty much.
How are things?
Yeah, not bad. Not too shabby at all.
No?
Just having a nice quiet. Actually, I just started watching What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh, awesome. How far in it are you?
Well, I just actually finished the movie earlier on today.
And did you love it?
Yeah, and I watched the first episode of the series because I had to get right into it after that. I was like, oh yeah. I remember now starting the movie before, and it's kind of slow at the beginning, and then it picks up at like half an hour, 45-minute mark. And it was like right there that I was like, oh yeah, but I had to stop it. So I had to come back, finish it. Anyway, it was a lot of fun.
Awesome. No, I love that movie. I'm always telling people to go watch that show.
Yeah, it was you that recommended it. That's why I had to go check it out.
That's like, usually if people haven't seen it, I'll talk about it. It often comes up, like even when I do trivia. I think a couple weeks ago, I think I made reference to it somehow, and I was talking. There's a great line like later where Matt Berry's character, like the guy from the IT crowd, where he's talking to this girl, and she's like, he's in hiding and he's pretending to not be a vampire. And this girl says, Jackie, he's going by the name Jackie Daytona. That's his alias, which is like a band from the 80s. But she's like, Jackie, you say you're from Tucson, but you have this weird European accent. And he goes, this is how we talk in Arizona. It's like one of my favorite lines in anything. Arizona.
That's awesome.
Well, thanks for being on the show, man. It's good to have you on.
Well, thanks for having me.
I know. I'm excited. This is good. It's always fun when I talk to people that I know outside of this, and it's not just like someone I just met, because it's always like a little bit of a get to know somebody, but when I already know them,
of course,
much easier sort of transition.
Yeah, man, definitely.
So, where did you grow up? Where was home for you?
For me, I grew up out in Fall River, Nova Scotia. So not too far from where I live now, to be honest.
Oh, you did not make it very far out, that's for sure.
Well, I mean, I did. So I grew up there. I lived there for like the first 18 years of my life. Then I moved out with some friends in a couple different apartments and things like that. And then, I moved to England for 5 years. Oh, did I just lose you?
Oh, that's right. I can still hear you. I think it just the video's gone. It's all right.
Perfect. Yeah, then I moved to England for 5 years and then moved back and lived in Halifax and now live in Dartmouth. So
holy crap. Okay.
Stayed around the area, but I love this area. I got to say, especially after living somewhere else, you really come to appreciate our little corner of the world here.
Really, even in Europe, like even living in England, you still prefer Dartmouth, Dartmouth, Nova Scotia to England?
There are lots of great things about, England and all around Europe. There's lots of great things, but it's not the same. The people aren't the same. The speed of life is like not the same. Priorities are largely different. Depending on where you live. In London, it was very much go, go, go. Everyone works. Everyone runs everywhere. Got to catch this train. Got to watch out. Got to, like, escalators have a passing lane. Okay. So, like, just to give you an idea. So
okay, interesting. So was London where you lived when you were in England predominantly?
Yeah. I lived in Greenwich and worked all around London in all the major banks there doing IT stuff. So
in the bank,
it was,
you're in the banking system. Okay.
Yeah, I was on the stock market trader floors, making sure all their internets always worked.
Well, talk about fast pace. That must have been insane.
It was, well, we had to fix their internet within 15 minutes of it going down. So it was like lots of money that could be lost if it didn't get fixed and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, definitely.
I kind of feel like you'd be like ball boys at tennis. You're just waiting by like the edge of the net in case.
That's basically, we were on like 2 floors up. And as soon as the ticket came, we ran right down, got her out, got her fixed up, and got them going as fast as possible. So yeah,
after that, not get it fixed, and then things really went to hell.
If you didn't get it fixed, you were pretty much fired. Like, you had to get it fixed fast.
What if it was an issue that you couldn't fix? Like, what if it was something else?
If it was like internet provider, for instance, that was a whole different story. But this is like, so this example was for Barclays Capital in London, in Canary Wharf. Like, it's like their big building for this massive bank. They have backups upon backups upon backups. So wow. There was pretty much always a way to get it back up. It was just making sure you did it right.
I imagine, like, I don't want to, like, I hate to like stereotype the people that would kind of be into that trade or that business, but like, what were the people that were doing that? Like the people you're fixing the internet for, like?
Well, let's just say the people that worked on these, there's 2 floors specifically that were the high end traders rather. And they had about a 5-year work life and then they retired.
Wow.
So like
straight up Wolf of Wall Street kind of shit.
It was stressful and it was yelling and it was this, that, and the other, and they made a lot of money. So usually after 5 years, that was it. They were out of the game, but they had also made enough money so that was it.
And their hearts just exploded 45.
Pretty much, yeah.
But at least it'll explode whether, on their private yacht or whatever.
Exactly. But no, so it was a fast-paced life, and for me, like, it's okay to do that for a while, and it was great to travel from there and everything like that. But my heart is here in Canada, back in the East Coast. Wow. For sure.
So what prompted? I mean, I want to get through your life. Maybe we should go back to the beginning. So Fall River, and it's just you and your sibling.
Yeah, that's exactly right. My brother Jay, and my mom and dad, and then we all went our separate ways once we got of age.
Oh, did your folks split up too?
Yeah, my dad lives in Quebec and my mom lives here in Dartmouth still.
Oh wow! So what? You just hit 18, and your folks like goodbye, and they all.
Well, what after like about a week after I moved to England, my dad split, and then
really, wow.
Yeah,
so that was predominantly, not to get too deep into the personal side of your life, but which as much as you're comfortable with, but yeah. So is it like a stay for the kids kind of thing? Because you're Jay's younger, right?
I don't know if I've ever gotten the full story, but that's what I gather. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's gotta suck. Can you imagine, like, I mean, obviously you've been in a long-term relationship, I have too, but can you imagine being like unhappy for essentially decades, just waiting for that clock to run out so you could be like,
I can't. After, like, looking back and trying to understand the whole thing, you're right. No, that would be something that's very difficult for sure, is trying to play that game. So I can get both sides for sure.
Yeah. Do you still have a relationship with them, I take it?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Very cool. So like the through line for this thing, I mean, it's generally just learning about your life, but generally it's kind of connected through comics and nerddom and stuff.
Of course.
So when did that kind of start with you? Like, what was?
Oh well, I there wasn't a lot to do growing up out in Fall River, but we did have a pharmacy that was within like a 20-minute, half an hour bike ride for us kids. So we'd bike down to the pharmacy and we would grab some candy bars, some chips, and some comic books. Now, the comic book selection was not great because it was a pharmacy. So we were getting all those 90s comics that flooded the market. But I loved them. I loved the Spider-Man. I loved the X-Men. I loved, mostly Marvel, but I got into some Batman and some Supes as well. But for me, it was all about Spider-Man and X-Men growing up. I like the Hulk a lot as well, actually.
I love talking to people that grew up in this area because generally all of us have the same intro to comics. It's like either a cousin or an uncle or someone that gave us a stack or a spinner rack or somewhere, a magazine rack somewhere at a pharmacy or a Needs convenience store or somewhere. Where,
exactly. And that's all it was.
Yeah. The Antigonish Mall did have a hobby store that sold them. That's where I got my introduction, but
nice.
But Needs had a few in the rack as well. And it's funny because it's like some comics that are like hugely comics that were huge in the industry that are being made into movies and TV shows and stuff now. Like I remember reading those storylines off the rack at like Needs.
Agreed.
Yeah,
that is what was so weird. That was, Spider-Man, obviously they kept doing that one over and over again, but the origin stories for sure. Like I had read all of those, so I liked when they started coming out in movies. I was like, oh, I already know the backstories of these. This is going to be good.
Yeah, and it's funny that now it's such a everyday phenomena. Like comic movies are even like Morbius is a movie for God's sakes. But it like back in the day when it was like. You got a Daredevil movie maybe because the X-Men movie did all right, which got the Spider-Man movie, but it's just like you had to wait for the previous one to do okay in hopes that a new one would come with a different character.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it was a different time for sure, but
it was. Now it's everybody in there. Like I'm waiting for the Aunt May movie to come out or the Uncle Ben prequel Disney Plus series. Like it just seems like everything gets its day in the sun now, which is cool.
Oh yeah, it is good because they're looking for so much. They're looking to create content that are this whole genre, the people that like this genre will eat up. So yeah, that's you're seeing a lot of it come out, but I also love a lot of it. Like a lot of the movies that people don't like, I still enjoy.
Really?
Like you and I were talking about you say Spider-Man 3. You like Spider-Man?
Yeah,
I do too. I did too. And I liked all of them. And although there might have been some things that I'm like, that's a bit cheesy, I can still kind of suspend my disbelief enough to go, that's still having fun with it. Like I still enjoy it.
Yeah, actually, there's a guy I know on social media there, Connor, who always does these. He's a movie guy too, and he always posts these. Like every month, he picks some theme, and he watches all these movies related to the theme. Yeah. And this month, I think he's doing like so 90s, like movies that were very 90s. Nice. And the one that he just posted yesterday, he was watching is Mystery Men, which I think is one of the most underrated superhero.
Oh, I agree.
Of all time.
Fantastic.
As a comedy, as a superhero movie, as a comic book adaptation, which it is as well, based on.
Oh, really? I did not know
they were
that.
spun off from Flaming Carrot Comics. They were a team that appeared in that.
No kidding.
It's such a strange, esoteric comic to have a spin-off movie made.
Right.
Like in the 90s. It's like before they're making all like Captain America and Iron Man, all these big characters. I know it's a different company, but even before Hellboy or any of their or Savage Dragon or I want to say Spawn too. Like even before all that stuff, we got Mystery Men, which is a fantastic movie. It's as a comedy, it's hilarious.
It was great. It was very entertaining. There's no doubt about it.
And star-studded, just like William H. Macy,
Ben
Stiller, Janine Garofalo, Eddie Izzard, Jeffrey Rush. Like it's just crazy amount of people. But no, I deeply love that movie. So it's nice to connect with people on like this sort of love of even as I even like the Daredevil movie when I was younger. If I were to go back and watch it now, the Ben Affleck one, I'm sure my opinion may shift. But I guess at a time when you're like starving for comic book content,
that's what it was. Like the original Punisher movie as well.
Oh, the Dolph Lundgren one?
Yeah, that I actually enjoyed that when it first came out because like I didn't love Punisher, but my buddy did. And that was one of the first comic movies I had seen. So for me, it was really connecting those dots.
I remember very little about that movie, except Louis Gossett Jr. was his partner. And they had a really good line where I think they finally come face to face after Castle's been killing people for a while.
Yeah.
And Gossett says something like, 36 bodies and there are like 196 bodies in 2 years. What do you call that, Frank? And he says a good start.
Yeah.
Which I thought was such a good Frank Castle sort of comment.
It totally is.
But even like those, because if you look deeper, like I think it was Shout Factory, which is a Blu-ray company that I collect some of their Blu-rays of, mostly just ones of film I like. They just re-released the Doctor Strange movie from like the 70s that they made.
Well, I didn't know there was one.
Yes, there was. I can't remember the actor that played him, but the bad guy was I want to forget her name. I want to say it's Lane, but it's not. It's the woman that played the mother on Arrested Development. Is it Jessica?
Oh, right.
Jessica Lange?
I don't remember her name.
Yeah, I can't either. Jessica something. Because I'm a big. I loved her on that show and on Archer and all those other shows.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It is Lang. Yeah, you're right. Archer, yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
So you know, that one, like the Matt Salinger Captain America movie. The
oh yeah, that was
that was pretty bad.
Something special. That
even the David Hasselhoff Nick Fury movie. Like,
oh my god.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
The made for TV. They made a like a new mutants. Gen X. Is that what it was? It was like a separate group of mutants that were like a side 90s team that weren't the X-Men, but it was like Generation Next or something. I can't remember, or Gen X. I can't remember, but it was one of those films from X-Men.
I vaguely remember that. Yeah,
because Matt Frewer was the villain in it. Max Headroom there. It was just. It was just a very strange time for like. Just there was like a Shadow Man TV show. Like they threw everything they could possibly get their holds at the wall.
Oh yeah, and it was. I mean, some of it was good. Some of it was entertaining, at least.
Yes, like,
but most of it didn't have like the effects that they could do today to make them look, real enough.
God, no, it's crazy. Like even just as a TV show, like I know Disney Plus is the whole other animal, but even like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or those sort of network TV shows that were kind of dabbling in the superhero realm. Like, there's some impressive special effects in that stuff.
I agree, especially for a lot of them having smaller budgets, a TV budget or whatever.
Some people have been kind of shitting on the design for Gore in the new Thor movie with Christian Bale, just because he doesn't look quite as tentacly as he looks in the comics.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and like it on that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show, when the villain for one of the seasons was basically the alien that Hydra came from. They worship this alien that some ancient group encountered way back in the day, where the base of Hydra came from, and his face is all kind of tentacly, and he looks very much like that character would. It actually looked pretty good.
Interesting.
So they could have got away with it, but I feel like when you have actors like Christian Bale, they don't really want to cover up their face and everything. And
that's losing your star power there.
Kind of. I mean, I don't know. I feel like Bale probably wouldn't care. The guy like loses 100 pounds and then gains 200 like a week later.
It was like Colin Farrell and flipping Batman as Penguin. That was mad.
Yeah, it's amazing. He looks really good. I think I don't want to go too deep into spoilers. I don't think this is a spoiler, but I laughed audibly in the theater, and I saw the movie late. It was like 9:30 at night when it started, or like 9:15. It's like 3 hours. Like, and I was in Halifax, so I didn't get out till like 1 o'clock.
Wow.
But the part where they show they're pumping Penguin for information, and they show him a picture of the guy that was killed by rats, and he's like, "Oh, hey, what are you showing me? What?" Like, oh, like he's just like, the reaction is so good.
No, that was maybe my favorite part of that Batman movie was the Penguin performance. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, it was all really cool. I'm excited. I mean, I still kind of just want, like, it felt closer to, like, I want to see the Batman Arkham Asylum games as a movie. And this feels closer. Like, the design of the costume is pretty close.
Yeah.
The vibe of it's pretty close. But I really just want to see Batman fight like Mr. Freeze or Clayface, or somebody that's not, just a mentally like damaged.
Well, Joker 2's coming out, isn't it?
That's true. They just announced that as well. Which
so I guess you're not going to get your wish anytime soon.
Well, that's a whole other world in that one. But I mean, that movie. Have you ever seen The King of Comedy, the Scorsese film?
No.
Oh, well, that movie is very much. It's almost a remake, basically. Like, if you watch that movie and then watch this one, it's basically, to me, like somebody watched The King of Comedy and said, I don't like how this ended. I'm going to make the same movie, but change the ending.
No way.
And then make it the Joker. Like, it's still a great movie. I do really like both films in their own right. The King of Comedy is a dark comedy for sure, but I would say the word comedy certainly would work in that. I wouldn't call the Joker any kind of a comedy.
Right. No.
Just
it's too dark.
just one sad descent into madness, which
might be their goal.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what they're going to do with it, because a while ago, I think it was like an interview with Willem Dafoe, who was talking about how he would love to do a sequel to that movie with Joaquin Phoenix and have somebody else be the Joker. So like maybe someone's emulating him and is another Joker, and there's like a Joker off between the two of them.
That'd be awesome.
And I'm
Mark
like,
Hamill. Mark Hamill.
that would be awesome. But based on the title of this movie, which is like The Two Madmen or something like that, I wonder if maybe that's where they're headed.
That'd be interesting.
I mean, Defoe is the guy that would always, it's the biggest crime in the world. He never got to play the Joker. He would have been perfect.
Oh man, totally. Although he did great as the Goblin, but
He sure did, especially in the new one.
oh man, tell me about it. That was brilliant.
Yeah, I super did all that. It's a good time to be a 90s kid, because they're really hitting you over the head with the nostalgia now.
Oh, in every way, shape, or form. Like even like the redos of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and all that
right,
type.
yeah, I forgot about that one.
Which was I won't lie, I watched it. I actually found it entertaining.
Really? I did not. I'm not abstaining from it for any reason. I just have enough stuff to watch that like it's hard to even get through the stuff I watch now. Like,
no, it's completely fair.
Yeah, if it wasn't for the fact that I do cardio for like an hour every day, I wouldn't be able to watch hardly anything, because that's when I normally catch up on stuff. I'm just getting through Stranger Things right now.
Oh yeah, we're doing the same actually.
Oh, it's so good. I haven't even watched Obi-Wan yet, and I'm really pumped for it, but I want to watch it.
Yeah, we're watching that too. That's it's pretty good. Yeah.
Oh, I'm super excited.
Still opening up, I would say.
Yeah, you think so? Well, how many episodes? Like 7 or 8?
I think the 4th one just came out for Obi-Wan.
I deeply got to catch up. I'm waiting for that Jar Jar cameo. I'm hoping he's.
Oh God. That's
I
the
had this
big money
discussion with someone about Star Wars. They said like, I'm just here for it, man. Whatever they put out, I'm going to be there for it.
I'm the same way.
They can do a Jar Jar show, and I'll probably watch it. I might even like it. Who knows?
I know. I'm the same exact way. It doesn't matter if it's got Star Wars on it. I'll watch it.
which is something dangerous to tell Disney, because they'll just be like,
but they know that already. I feel.
I guess it's not a closely guarded secret.
That's why there's like back-to-back shows now. It's not even like what was their original plan was once a year they'll have something new coming out from the Star Wars universe.
Oh yeah.
But now it's like the shows are coming back to back to back basically.
Yeah.
But to be fair, Star Trek's doing the same thing.
That's hard to keep up with as well. I mean, I did watch Discovery, and I did see the season that introduced the Strange New World guys, but I haven't seen the last season.
Strange New Worlds is really good. Discovery is really great as well. I really like that one.
I got up until the end of season 2, which I think is what they go to the future, right? And they kind of wipe themselves from continuity.
It's pretty. It gets really crazy after that.
I do know David Cronenberg makes a cameo in it, which I think is pretty great. So I do want to see that.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of him.
So. Awesome. Yeah. No, it's a lot of fun. It keeps moving, and it's the Star Trek that I think it's going to reach it has the potential to reach the widest audience. Yeah. It's like it fits the sci-fi genre without being like a Trekkie show per se. It kind of covers a lot of things, and it has a lot of different attention grabbers in it, like everything from like relationship building to the battles to cool tech stuff and effects and all that stuff. It kind of covers all the bases, I feel.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Where Picard was awesome, but it's still that's more going for that, Star Trek Next Generation fan base.
Yeah, which I never. I came to the party basically with Deep Space Nine. I didn't, and which is my favorite Star Trek, but I never watched a ton of the Next Generation, which I feel like I should go back and do. A few years ago, I did go back and rewatch all of DS9, which I love dearly. So I should probably take a step further and watch that as well. But I did watch the first season of Picard. I liked it all right.
Yeah, me too. I know I've watched all of Picard. It's really good.
Cool. So when you got out of school and like you went into IT, is that what college?
Yeah, went to the Mount St. Vincent University, went into IT, and then after that I
straight to England.
Pretty much. Like I worked for a while, but I felt like I wasn't doing much here. Was kind of spinning my wheels. So yeah, I had an opportunity open up in England, and I said, yeah, sure, jumped in.
That was super cool. So you have a son as well. Was that around before you went to England or when you got back?
Yes. Before I went to England, there was, a lot of reasons why, but that was a time when there had to be a little break to create peace, and it worked. And that's everyone's got a great relationship now. So that's wonderful.
Oh, that is really good.
But and he came and visited me like two or three times, so we had lots of good memories up in England as well.
Oh, excellent. But he is like in his 20s now, right?
He is 22, yeah,
And you were what, 40?
almost 42.
Wow. Okay, so you did have him early.
I did, yes.
It's got to be kind of surreal to be a guy as young as you are with a son as old as that.
It used to be a lot more than it is now, but yes, like definitely, especially when you're like, you know, in your early 20s and taking him to like soccer games or whatever basketball games that he's playing in, and all the other parents are quite a bit older than you.
Well, you also look young, like even for a 44-year-old, you look young.
Well, thank you. And
So,
I have heard that before, and you know, it makes it so that there's been certain times where people didn't believe you as my son and stuff, but not to the point it was an issue, but it was to a point where it was like, really?
were you introducing him as your brother, or?
That's what they thought. But no, I introduce him as my son always. That's never.
That's amazing. Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
But
So,
also one of the big reasons why I moved back to Halifax area.
well, that would make sense, yeah. But when you were like you're fairly well traveled. Like when you were in England, you must have been doing a lot of traveling all around Europe, were you?
Oh yeah. I mean, for work, they sent me a lot of places. They sent me to Spain and Germany and Thailand and France a couple times, and so I got to see a lot of different places. And then besides that, I did a lot of traveling on my own personally, because when you're making the British pound and traveling around, the British pound's a really great currency, so you can travel for super cheap anywhere you want around Europe.
And also flights in Europe are like traveling between European countries is generally quite cheap.
Oh my goodness. Like, and when you're talking in British pounds, it's sometimes like 25 pounds with taxes to fly to Spain or to fly to Germany or whatever.
Why wouldn't you just go there every weekend? I would.
Yeah, well, to be fair, it's also very expensive to live in London.
Oh, that's fair.
And there's a very big drinking culture in London too. So you tend to spend a lot of your money at the pub. But
yeah, I romanticize that part of European life. I think like when I was in Ireland and Scotland, you know, we go to these little pubs and stuff and just drink at nighttime after, you know, we do sightseeing all day and go to do touristy stuff. Yeah, that was almost my favorite part of it, is just going into this weird little pub and meeting strangers and chatting with people. It was really fun. And
them recommending things, you saying what you've seen and where you're from and blah blah blah. Yeah, I agree, and that's one of my favorite parts about London as well. Was I did that almost every night. But then there's the point at the end of the week when you're looking at your bank account going, oh yeah, I've done that just about every night. So yeah. But it is cheap to travel, so I did get a lot of traveling in, which is good.
And would you ever visit? Like I found out about Ireland and Scotland. If I ever noticed anything that was comic booky, I ducked my head in. Do you ever visit any things in those other countries, like Spain or comic shops and those sort of places?
I have, definitely. In England, I did a lot. Like I played a lot of Magic the Gathering back in the day as well. So I definitely found a little Magic the Gathering community in England, in like the area of London I was living in Greenwich. And yeah, we had, I mean, I bought a lot of cards, but we had a few games and stuff. I didn't get too heavily into it over there, but.
Did you have to put the cards on the opposite side of the table?
Yeah. It goes around counterclockwise when you're playing around the table. No.
Oh, that's super cool, man. So, yeah. So when you get back, I mean, you and I met through Geeks versus Nerds, which I was introduced to your brother, who was working in Strange Adventures, and I used to talk to when I went in there to pick up my comics.
Yeah, well, I mean, essentially, it was like a week or two after I was back that my brother introduced me to Pig Monkey Andrew Dorfman, who was, you know, one of the creators of Geeks versus Nerds. And essentially we hit it off famously right away. And it, you know, was us sitting around having conversations, you know, over breakfast at the Ardmore. And like,
I still love that place.
Oh man,
thank you for introducing me to it. I pop in there every once in a while when I'm
it's a great cheap spot for a dirty diner kind of, or greasy spoon type of situation. I love it.
Food's great.
Absolutely. But yeah, we would, you know, meet for breakfast there, or, you know, meet in Andrew's backyard or whatever, and we'd have chats, and came up with the idea Geeks versus Nerds. And
so what was the impetus for that? Like, was it just something you guys were like, was it always envisioned to be like a comedy, like a stage debate show, or what was the initial idea?
Yes. I mean, essentially we were looking for something to do together and talking about ideas. And I mean, Andrew has always been a huge listener of CBC, and for anyone who listens to the CBC, they probably know the debaters. which is a hilarious show, absolutely fantastic. And if we essentially grabbed a lot of nuggets of ideas from that and made this a very geeky version of that. And we're like, geeks have been arguing these kind of, who would beat who in a fight for years in your parents' basements and comic book stores and that. So it was just making that into something that was in front of people, because there's so much, like even in conversations you have just with your friends in, over a drink or in a backyard or in a comic book store or whatever, there's so much comedy gold there. Things that come up, they're like, no way, he would definitely beat him because he would pull out his giant hammer or whatever. And it can go so many ways from there. But we felt that was something that had legs and that would be funny for other people to watch. There's a big enough geek community that would really, entertain people. And I feel like we were right. And from day one, Andrew wanted to have a podcast. Like the major reason we were doing the live show was to create a podcast. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we did that. And the podcast is still up to find. In a lot of I know you can still find it on Google Podcasts, which is what I listen through, but I'm sure you can find it through other formats as well. But it was we had a lot of fun with that for many years. And I guess for those who don't know, it was essentially just a comedy debate show where we threw three contestants on one side of the stage and three on the other side of the stage and pit them against each other to debate things like who's the bigger badass, Batman or Boba Fett,
which you guys redid 3 times.
Yeah, that was our most famous one. We probably did so many times, but it was one that people had a lot of love for.
Yeah, I think the first one I did was Godzilla versus Batman?
Versus Cthulhu?
Cthulhu.
Godzilla versus Cthulhu, I think.
Was that the first? I don't know if was that the first one? It feels like it was somewhere around there.
Yeah. That was definitely one of the earlier ones, like for sure. Were you on the first season? I'm trying to remember when you came in now,
but it was somewhere.
Were you ever at Joker's, the comedy club down on Spring Garden Road in Halifax?
No, the first one I did was at the Greywood.
So that would have been our second season. Our first season was at the Joker's Comedy Club down on Spring Garden Road, which was like, I can't remember if it was below your father's mustache, I want to say.
Yeah, it's the what is it now? The 9 Locks brewing place now.
Right. And I think that's where it was. I can't quite recall. But or no, actually it was beside that. There's like a karaoke bar or something, I think it is now.
Oh,
but
okay.
Anyway, it was a little spot that was open for a couple of years, but didn't quite bring in enough money. It's hard for comedy clubs. And yeah, basically we then moved on to the Greywood, which is the Dalhousie University campus bar.
Which is probably my favorite venue, you guys.
Oh, it was definitely my favorite venue. It was a blast there. It was perfectly set up. They had the equipment. They had, the setup for food and drink and everything. It was a great setup there. Yeah, I love that. And we stayed there for a few years doing the show.
Yeah, and then you moved on to, was it the, where'd you go from there?
There was a few after that. I think we did the Seahorse for a while. Maybe it was after that.
Yes, downstairs. Yeah, we did that for a little bit, and then it was the. Then you guys were back to, was it like the Oasis or something or something?
Yeah, that's right. We went to the Oasis, and I want to say there was another venue in between there somewhere, but we finished off at the Oasis, and of course we did a lot of other short like con shows and things like that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I did one or two of the HowCon ones, which were a ton of fun.
Yeah.
And that was like the funnest part of those was just coming up, like as someone who enjoys nerd culture, there's something really freeing about being able to write comedy to an audience is going to get it. Like as a stand-up comedian, to write a joke about Cthulhu or the Care Bears or anything really strange or weird or esoteric or nerdy, like to just, if you're just a regular stand-up comedian, you either have to have a hell of a setup or really know your audience or whatever you're doing to be able to throw that out there. But when you do a Geeks versus Nerd show, it's all on the table because they're going to get all these references.
I know. That's the great thing.
The Cthulhu one was funny because me and I've met quite a few good friends through doing Geeks versus Nerds, yourself included.
Same here, yeah.
But Stephen Heisler, who's a friend of mine.
He's awesome.
I remember one time, I don't know if it was that one. I feel like it was someone else, but it was something to do with Cthulhu. Or maybe I can't remember what it was exactly, but It might have been Batman. I think it was Batman and something. And one of the other team was telling a joke, but the joke was running really long. It was almost like a story, like they were going off for like 20 minutes.
Right.
And I looked over at Steve and I said, I didn't know we're doing the Vinyl Cafe version of the Geeks versus Nerds. And we both kind of laughed. And then me and him like laughed. And then we just sort of jokingly after the show, we're sitting around having a few drinks. And I was saying like, man, we should do this. And it was an idea that I really wanted to do. But then Stuart McLean passed away, and then it seemed kind of bad to make fun of him, but the idea was like to do the Vinyl Cafe, but just do nerdy stories in that style. But there's only like, you have to be Canadian to know who he was, pretty much.
But still, that I think today it would almost be seen like an homage or something. Like that would be.
And maybe so. Maybe enough time has gone by since he's passed away that it's okay again. Like I just don't want to. Like I'm a big fan of him in general, so I don't want to.
Of course,
crap on
as most Canadians are, I reckon. Yeah.
But it was just like, I remember we were talking and laughing. And I was like, you could have so much fun with it, especially picking things that were like really dark and twisted and like doing it in that style. And be like even Cthulhu. I think Cthulhu might have been part of the debate. Because I was like, what did I say?
Would be dark. Oh my God.
I think I leaned over and I said, because me and him were kind of laughing at the table. And I think we were still kind of joking between each other while the other guy was talking, which is not great, but we were just having such a good time. And I was like, what does it say? As Morley threw Dave's intestines into the propeller. It's like Dave was to go, her eyes turned to the sky as she worshipped a new dark god. Mighty Cthulhu. And as the light faded from Dave's eyes, his last thought in this mortal plane was, did I leave the stove on?
Dude, I want to hear that so bad now.
And we laughed and laughed, and maybe I'll come back to it someday. It was a funny idea. I thought it was
absolutely fantastic.
It was a hoot, but yeah, because you guys had quite a few. Like you guys had interesting run-ins with other people related to nerddom, because you had like AJ from Sci-Fi come in and do a show, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And you had like Collins,
Teddy and AJ. And
yeah, did Nathan Fillion call in one time?
Nathan Fillion, that was on the first Halcon show. He called in,
and that was that Firefly versus something? What was the?
Yeah, it was actually the Millennium Falcon versus the Firefly. What's the better ship? Yeah, or Serenity. Sorry, yeah. What's the better ship? I can't remember. What's the better smuggler ship or something like that? Or
well, I feel like if he's going to call, you're not getting a call from Harrison Ford, so I'm going to guess that the Serenity.
Exactly, and it was because we had author PJ Harsma was up on stage as one of our contestants, and he happens to be friends with Nathan Fillion, and he was battling for the Serenity. So, yeah, he called Nathan Fillion and got him on the PA over the phone system on the stage, and that was an absolutely epic phone call. It was great with a few quotes from Firefly and everything.
What I liked and what I love too is it also, like, when you're celebrating geek and nerddom and these sort of very rare, and obscure things related to it. It was very much an adult show because we could curse and we could talk about stuff, and
exactly.
It was kind of an adult comedy show based around nerd culture, which is something you don't see a lot of.
No,
there is a market for it at conventions for sure. But it's kind of like the filk industry. Like I had Ukla the Maka on the show a while ago, and they're like the bands that do songs about nerd and film and sci-fi and that sort of stuff. So I feel like it kind of ranks up there with them as that kind of.
Yeah, well, we definitely hung a lantern on it as well, starting the show with the content warning song that had like the F-bomb 26 times or something in it.
Yeah, which is the greatest intro to once they start that song, what's coming. Like
what's coming. And it's so funny because it started out as we said, oh yeah, Andrew, you got to do a content warning before the show. People have to know this is, safe for small kids or whatever. And Andrew said, oh, really? Okay. Well, I don't want to do a regular content warning song. Give me 20 minutes. So he went
that in 20 minutes.
He went in the other room and got out his ukulele and wrote that song in like 20 minutes or less. And I mean, it doesn't have a lot of words, but
it has a lot of one
words, but it was done in a way that was like an earworm, essentially. So it became something that the whole audience would sing along with. And I mean, you had Trevor Batson who would do like a high note at the end every time, but he would hit it bang on. So it was hilarious. I mean, it was just one of those things that Andrew, I can remember Andrew saying, "Oh God, I'm going to get famous for this song, not for the actual show."
Well, he may be right. I mean,
We'll see.
yeah. I mean, and you guys had a good run. It was for quite a while, but
Yeah, we did it for what, 8 years, I think it
wow,
was.
that was a long time.
And yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun. It really was. And I won't lie, we didn't make any money out of it, but we didn't do it for the money. We did it for fun. We did it because we enjoyed this culture, this community, and you know, it helped that we got to go to conventions and see all kinds of cool people as well. Like it was a lot of fun, and we had so many laughs and good times.
Yeah, it
We
was
did.
a hell of a community.
Like we get to the point where we were doing like a yearly retreat down at that hostel that we'd rent out the entire hostel down in Wentworth Valley,
You
and
should do that again, man. That was fun.
that was fun. It was a lot of fun.
I wonder that hostel must still be going.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I feel like that hostel was prime like summer camp, get murdered at Camp Crystal Lake kind of vibing sometimes.
You could totally shoot that movie there.
Yeah, you 100% right at the base of Ski Wentworth.
Yeah, exactly.
But and you guys had an offshoot too, where one of your members went off and did it in Vancouver, right?
Yeah, Chris Narati, he was one of our longtime cast members in the first and second season there, and then he was moving to Vancouver, and he had an interest to kind of bring the show over to the West Coast. So he became the host for the show and set everything up, and got a kind of a great crew under him there, and they got it up and running, and they ran like about the same amount of time as we did, maybe a little bit longer. Like they ended a little bit
quite
longer.
popular. Like, why did they wrap up?
I think it was a lot of the same reasons, just it had seen its time, but and just trying to maintain that monthly show, getting everything set up. Like it doesn't seem like a whole lot, but I can tell you from experience that it takes a full month to set that show up.
Oh, I believe it.
There is a lot of behind the scenes stuff that goes into setting up like that kind of a live show. So I tend to think it is a drain when you have to like continuously do this extra thing, because of course we work day jobs and everything as well, so this is this extra thing in your life that you're basically trying to fit in, and it takes up a lot of time, and it tends to make you reprioritize things. So there was a point where we had to say, okay, this has been an absolute blast, but I think we've seen it have its run, and we got to move on to something else. Time for the next project.
Well, it's a shame, because I really felt like it had legs as far as an idea that could have made it on the grand scheme of thing, especially with the levels of content that are just crying for everywhere now, it seems.
Well, we had a lot of fun with it, and we did video record a lot of the shows as well, and they were actually released on Eastlink TV for many years. I'm not sure if they're still available there, but
I forgot that. Yeah, I've had people mention to me every once in a while when you guys are doing that they saw me on there.
So yeah, exactly, and I had the same thing, but you can still find a lot of the videos up on the Geeks versus Nerds YouTube channel is still there, and a lot of the video content is still there. And we had some spin-off shows we did as well. Like we did
Knockout the Nerd. I remember
Knockout the Nerd. That's right. That was fun. That was a different format live show. I don't think we video recorded any of those, but they were a lot of fun as well. What was it? You had a team of 5 geeks up on stage that were like your know-it-alls, as it were, and then you had someone from the audience come up, and they pick one of those geeks to be their team member.
Yeah, and
then they have to essentially debate against the rest of them.
Yeah, and you had like a 20-minute window to go write some material.
That's right. There was a chance you could go write some content, but everyone had to write their jokes right there and then. It wasn't like a prepared thing as much. So it had the potential to be great, but also had the potential to be not as great, depending on who was writing and how the delivery went and how the audience were. It was a fun show we tried for a while, for sure.
Fat Apollo was pretty prominent in that. I've had him on the show.
Oh yeah, definitely. Actually, Fat Apollo was a host for that show. Yeah. And the other show we did that we had a lot of success with was the 2-minute debates.
Right.
Those were a lot of fun as well. Where it was just like, what's better, sparkles or bubbles? And like you had 2 minutes to slam your arguments down. And that was it. And that was a lot of fun too. We did that at a lot of conventions because it was a quick to set up, easy to fly, like on the fly. And you could get people that weren't as knowledgeable about geeky things. Say, oh yeah, bubbles are great because bubbles, are shiny and make everybody happy and whatever. You don't have to have a lot of geek knowledge for that.
No, I just remembered actually the Bus Stop Theater. We did quite a few of them there as well.
Oh, that's the other place.
Yeah,
Yes,
I know.
I knew there was
one in
there
my
for
head that I couldn't think of either.
Yeah, that's right. Bus Stop Theater was actually quite a cool venue.
Yeah, it was cool. I like the because the little bar they had there was pretty sweet.
Yeah, and we had, I don't remember, we had the hot dog guy coming in for a while. He'd bring his hot dog cart in.
Yes,
And he had some killer, hot dogs.
I forgot about hot dog guy.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, because I remember the 2-minute debates would sometimes open the show. We do a few of those before the big ones, and yeah,
That's
it was
right.
a blast. It was always a lot of fun to go do those shows and be a part of that community. And it's something I look back on fondly and kind of miss.
Yeah, I do too, but I also know that we put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into that. And if we were, and again, we did it for the love of it, but if we had been pulling a ton of money out of that, maybe we'd still be doing it today. But it's really, yeah. There's a certain
someone who does an extracurricular activity that like quite a few that don't necessarily make a lot of money, this one included. You definitely have to have passion to be a part of it.
Exactly, and that's what it was about. And I mean, like I said, all the behind the scenes stuff. So Andrew would go back. Andrew did all the writing for all anything he had to say ahead of the show or about the show. Like he did an intro for each character before the show, which we had an accompanying slideshow with. So like I would build the slideshow, he'd do all the writing for that. But then of course there was also getting all the cast members signed up, getting the venue sorted out, getting all the crew that were going to be working that night, making sure we had everything covered. And there was a lot of work to do. And then of course he had to edit the podcast after we finished it. And then start the whole thing over again for next month. So it definitely it took a lot of work, but it was it was a project of passion for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing, so like the videoing of this was something that you had done, as you were doing those, but that kind of did that filter into doing like cosplay videos and stuff, or is that something that came later?
That came later. So I mean, essentially we had this great guy named Ashley King who was doing he came in from the local Da Vinci College there, and he was helping us. He actually approached us to turn our content into video, and we loved the idea. So he basically, what he did is he turned Geeks versus Nerds into part of the curriculum at the Da Vinci College, where the students would come in, they would bring the gear, they would record the show from 3 different angles, and then they would take it back and they would do all the editing. So it was a great way that it worked. It was very budget friendly for us. And it also was helping out the local school, which was fantastic, and a lot of the local students. And we met a lot of great people through that, some of which we still keep in touch with. I'm sure you probably remember Matt Chamberlain.
Oh yes,
Matthew Fitzgerald Chamberlain, who was he was our our tech guy extraordinaire. He did all the sound recording, he did all the video, he helped with the video recording. He was fantastic. But it helped us meet all kinds of people through that I still keep in touch with today for sure.
Yeah. So, but you went on because you do these kind of music videos based on cons. Where you record people that are
So I mean, so me being in the geek community, I started and also loving YouTube. I went in and I found these YouTubers called Sneaky Zebra or Sneaky Zebra. If you're in England, they're from England, so they call themselves Sneaky Zebra. But basically, there are a couple of guys that go into conventions and essentially make a music video, but instead of a regular music video, they're taking the video content of all the different cosplayers and costumers at the convention. And I fell in love with these videos. And that is what first inspired me to start doing video myself, is these cosplays, music videos. So I got a camera and a little Steadicam rig, and I started going to the local conventions. Like I started out at HalCon, and I can't remember the first year, but I want to say 24. No, it can't be 2014. Surely, maybe it might actually be 2014. And basically, I just walked in and was like, okay, we're already here to do Geeks versus Nerds, but people are covering the table. And while I'm not doing the live show, I'm going to walk around the convention and see if I can do one of these. And I absolutely loved the process. It was so much fun talking with all the cosplayers through the whole convention. And, you get so many cool stories about how people built their costumes and, what they went through, or, how good it looked yesterday, but how it's falling apart today or whatever. And, the costume still looks awesome. So like, there's so many of these kind of stories that you hear that really add the behind the scenes to this, but I just loved seeing all the costumes. The amount of work people put in them is phenomenal. And, seeing any kind of a video with that much color and people having fun, and, you add some, and I always use local artists from Nova Scotia as well. So, you're throwing in some local music with it. It really made the whole thing a blast for me. And yeah, then I just started going to different conventions around. Every time Geeks versus Nerds were at a different convention, we would basically add in this as part of our offering, is that we could do a cosplay music video for this convention as well. And it turned, it was, to this day, I love going back and checking those out, because there's so many, just watching people have a great time and remembering the memories from those conventions and things. It's such a blast. It was just great. And I can't wait to start doing it again, if I'm being honest. I've been waiting for some cons to start getting going again. And of course, HalCon's going this year, but I don't think I'm going to be able to make it to HalCon this year. But if I can get out to like Geekwinox, if they're doing one of those again soon, that'd be great. But yeah, we did them at HarborCon Fusion and CaperCon, and there was one in St. John that we did. I can't remember the name of it now.
That was HarborCon Fusion, wasn't it?
Was that HarborCon Fusion?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That was a while ago now, but
yeah, that was. But yeah, we hit up a bunch of them and had a lot of fun with them. But those videos are all still on the Geeks versus Nerds YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, they're great videos, and they're really fun. Like the cosplay, like I've never had any desire to do the cosplaying thing myself, but it's an interesting subculture that obviously doing art at these conventions makes you adjacent to in some ways,
right?
Seeing them all the time, and sometimes I do sketches of people in their costumes, which I have done quite a few of at various events, because people enjoy them.
You've done one of me
as
Waldo.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, right. You were Waldo. You always
or no, wait. I think the one we have of that you did for us. Yeah, Genevieve was Wald. Well, what was her name? The Waldo girl. What's her name?
Carmen Sandiego.
Yes and no. No, there was, in the actual Waldo books, there was a Wanda, I think was her name. And she also had striped shirt, but Genevieve basically was wearing my Waldo costume, and I was dressed up like a cowboy, I want to say.
I think you're right. Yeah, that's funny.
But anyway, that's funny, because we still have that picture. It's great. I love that picture. But
so yeah, like just the
right.
passion that it takes for someone to go through the work and the effort to build these things. I mean, obviously some are fairly not like superly detailed.
Like my Waldo costume, very basic, store-bought, kind of not a lot of work on it.
It looks great. But
then there's people that build Optimus Prime.
Yeah, or like working like Iron Man suits, or like Batman suits that look like they just walked out of the video game, like Arkham Asylum. Like,
oh man, I mean, I've seen kids that their father built them like a working AT-AT walker. That they just, or the chicken walker, like that they basically stand in, and when they walk around, the legs move and everything. And another kid had the speeder bike on a bicycle, like a bicycle transformed into a speeder bike. I was like, come on, that's brilliant. I've seen so many good ones.
Yeah, and there's this very interesting like connection to like this passion and this wanting to celebrate it, but also put all this work into this sort of tribute to it. Mm-hmm. It's almost like a tribute to your own, like not even just to the thing itself, but almost to your own connection to
love of the thing. Like, you're right. But it's so fun when you're like, you see people walking through a convention, and I mean, when I did dress as Waldo and walk through, and if I saw Carmen Sandiego, I mean, you had to stop and get a picture. And you see people that have the same costumes and whatever, and they, two Darth Vaders walk up to each other. It's brilliant. You guys both have the love for the same, you know what I mean, the same universe and the same characters. It builds friendships immediately. You guys automatically know you have something in common.
Yeah, but like you thought about that, but you're right. It really is like it's like looking at another person and knowing that you are going to have a connection with them on a level without even have to talk to them, because it's based on their outfit.
And then imagine a whole convention center full of these people.
Yeah, essentially. That's funny. I never put that together. I mean, it makes sense, but I just never thought about how it's an instant connection. Like you can just say, like if the guy's dressed as Thanos, you can say, "Hey, I'm a massive Thanos fan," and you can talk about Thanos probably for an hour with this person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that passion helps. Like I know from my perspective, when I started recording videos with people, you have to talk to people before you start shooting the video. Ask permission, make sure they're cool to be in it, blah blah blah. And then their first question is, "Well, what do you want me to do?" well, whatever you want. Do you want to dance? Do you want to, do your pose, do your fighting move that you would do as Thanos or as Captain America or as Batman or whoever, do the thing you would do, or do something fun. It's so funny. And you have this conversation with people and you really get to see how much they know about the character, because they're like, okay, well, I'm going to do this special move from season 3, episode 2, where you kick up in the air and do that. I'm like, hey, you go for it, man.
It always makes for a dynamic video.
Exactly. And that's it, because people show their passion right away and they want to look cool on film. And this is like, they're already, feeling confident and cool in their costume. So this is just like projecting that, I love that.
Yeah, I guess that part of cosplaying I never think about, but it's almost because like I do acting and like on stage and cinema and stuff.
Yeah.
And I guess the idea that like it's almost like, because when you play a different character, there's a level of confidence that comes with that's projected. If the character's supposed to be confident, but even generally just that when you step into another role, but it's almost like you're stepping into. It's like when you're in a stage show, if you play a character, like nobody knows who. For instance, the play I'm in right now, my character's name is oh my god, I forgot my own character's name, Blackburn. Steve Blackburn. So it's like nobody knows who Steve Blackburn is. You need to introduce the character with
Right.
dialogue and scenes and all this sort of in the connections to the characters. But when you're cosplaying as an existing character with years and years and hundreds of volumes of continuity depending on the character, you already have all this kind of ready set information, instant recognition. So I can see how there's a level of confidence that comes from that you wouldn't just get if it's like, and you do see lots of people cosplaying as their own character, someone that they made up from their own comic or their own whatever.
Yep.
Which is always kind of interesting. But
I always love hearing those stories. Actually, I almost like hearing those more, because the characters have such a built up backstory that they're like on hand, ready to go, because they're expecting the question.
Yeah, that actually is quite true. And usually it's way more elaborate. Like say they haven't even made a thing yet. Like maybe they put out one comic or something, and they're like, here's a 17-page diatribe about the character and all the stuff that like is probably never going to see a comic, but in their head they've already built this amazingly expansive world.
Exactly, which is awesome. Yeah, and I love seeing the passion, for sure. Even if I don't necessarily want to stand there for 45 minutes listening about it, I love seeing the passion.
Like a TED talk about your
about this guy I've never heard about before. Yeah. But I've seen and in some of my cosplay videos, I can think of one specifically. This guy like transformed like bits of a bike into like a bow and arrow. And he had I remember
that guy. That was super
cool. Really cool costume, and I really liked the backstory of his. Like that was the one that really stuck out for me.
Yeah, that's really cool. Wow.
But yeah, and so many people, and especially when you're like in the conventions, you've got people from all ages. So you have kids that are like quite young, like 8 or younger even, that have this love for like Avatar and Last Airbender or whatever it may be, and then you've got like people that are elderly that are coming to cosplay that are dressed up in like Victorian gear or like whatever. And I love to see that everyone coming together, kind of sharing the love.
I'm sure you and I are both familiar with the same gentleman that comes all the time dressed as the first Doctor. He's pretty much at every convention I ever see.
Yep.
Bruce, he's always there, and I always have a nice conversation with him. I saw him at the PEI Comic-Con I did this year.
Mm-hmm.
It was super cool to just catch up with these people. And they're people that you don't really know on a day-to-day basis, but you always run into these conventions. And you're right, it's like a fun little friendship that you kind of forget about until you do these things, and then you remember, oh yeah, that person exists.
So true. I mean, especially when before COVID, obviously, when we were all like you and I were in a lot of we'd see each other at the same conventions quite often.
I'd often stay with you guys when I was
exactly, and we'd go out for supper after and whatever. Yeah. But it's always fun when you have that same kind of crew of people that you see. Oh, hey, yeah, we're at another one. Yeah, hey, how's it going now, André? Yeah, all right. And then you kind of build up that rapport with other vendors, with other presenters and everything. Like I like that. And you kind of get more involved in the behind the scenes stuff, or see more of the behind the scenes stuff as well, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that is a fun part of nerd culture that doesn't really get talked about a lot. It's mostly just the surface stuff you see, but to the sort of connections and friendships you make on the back end of that sort of stuff is very interesting.
Well, and I always think as well, like I was never a volunteer for HowlCon or any of their conventions, but I'm sure those HowlCon volunteers must be a tight-knit crew by the end of the weekend or whatever. They must be like family, having gone through something so hectic and working so hard over a weekend. There's got to be some camaraderie that comes out of that for sure.
Yeah, there's a part of me that I think I've talked about on here before that I really want to do like a HowlCon for horror movies, like a horror con in Halifax.
Yeah,
And I just need someone to give me money to start it. That's all I need.
All you need is a couple sponsors.
I think it would do well, because like they would get massive amounts of people that would go to Tatamagouche just to meet, Kane Hodder, who played Jason Voorhees in part 7, 8, 9, 10 of movies. And you get hundreds of people, or like almost 1,000 people going out to Tatamagouche, which is like half an hour outside of Truro.
Yep.
If you did it in an urban center like Halifax, I think you'd do pretty well. There's a lot of horror movie people around.
And there's lots of there's more and more venues now that could handle something like that. And that's not a bad idea.
No, I'm kind of thinking about it. I got to talk to someone that maybe has some experience with the organization of a con to get it feet under it. But I think there's legs there. I just got to figure it out.
Definitely. I love the idea. And I think there's definitely a big enough community here that would love that type of content for sure.
And I noticed you've done a few music videos for local artists too. Is that just something that connected it to the cosplay videos? Or?
Yeah, exactly. So cosplay's music videos, like I really kind of found a passion for music videos, to be honest. Like, and a lot of it is like, timing and types of shots you do and stuff like that. And over the years, I just got more and more love for it. And I did some music videos for some friends of mine that are local artists. And then, I started picking up some paying gigs as well from other local artists. And I mean, they've all been amazing to work with. And honestly, I realized that I think my big passion right now is doing music videos. Like I will do any kind of video. I love shooting video and editing video, but for me, music videos really give me a chance to kind of express my artistic side. I feel like I get to really, that's the way I express my artistic side, I guess, is through video. But awesome. Music videos are really where I feel like I connect well with music and try to make it fit well and try to make there's a vision. As soon as I hear a song, I have a vision of what the video should be. And I love trying to make that happen in real life. Oh man, it's cool. I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's got to be interesting to try to find that connection to, you know what I mean? To try to find
and sometimes it's only threads that you have to, turn into something bigger, a bigger tapestry, if you will. But like a lot of times it's just like, oh, you say this in the song, but that could mean this, or that could connect to this, or, like the last one I did was at the abandoned theme park, Upper Clements Park. We shot a heavy metal music video there and like set up the drum set on the roller coaster. And like there was a ball pit that we got the whole band to go into that was still intact. It was a lot of fun.
Did you get permission to do this?
Yes, we did actually. We didn't before we went, but when we had been in the park for about a half an hour and we had the drums set up on the roller coaster and we had all the guitars set up, but the guitars, they didn't have amps or anything, right? We didn't have any power there. Yeah. But the drums are loud on their own. Yep. So the steward of the park, the person who was taking care of the grounds, he heard the drumming and he came and found us.
Interesting.
And then gave us permission very promptly. Like, oh, that's really cool. You guys are doing this. Yeah. If anyone gives you any hassle, just tell them that Jimmy said it was okay for you to be here. And
well, I mean, that place is gone now. So it's
they've torn it down now.
Private school is what they're building, I believe now.
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad that we got in there when we did then, because we just got in there this last winter. And it was, it was one of the last videos that was probably shot in that park.
Oh, that is super cool.
But it was such a blast to shoot that. Oh my goodness. That band was called Turbo.
Ah, cool. Well,
the song was called Alive, if anyone wants to look it up.
Alive by Turbo, featuring a video by John Roy. So what's next for you, John? When do you get on the go coming up?
I'm trying to line up some more music videos going. I've got quite a busy summer already, just with we're doing some traveling to Cape Breton and things like that. So we'll keep it light and fluffy over the summer, but trying to line up a bunch more video gigs coming up. Still doing the day job of IT stuff, but if I can make video happen full time, that's the dream for sure.
Oh, well, I wholeheartedly believe that's a possibility for sure. I believe in your dream, John.
I do
fully
too.
back it. I look forward
but I
to
still have to pay the bills in the meantime. So
yeah, well, it's important that some people keep that connection in line when they're they're chasing their dreams. That sometimes they still have to maintain relationships and pay bills on top of that.
Well, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being on the show, man. I really appreciate having you on.
I'm stoked to be here. Thank you so much for having me, André. It was a pleasure.
I'll be seeing you very soon, I'm sure.
No doubt. You're always welcome to stay at our place when you're in town. You know that.
Same with you guys whenever you're out here.
I appreciate that, man. You have yourself a wonderful evening.
You too. Catch up with you soon.
Cheers, man. Bye-bye.
Bye. And there it is, my conversation with John Roy. I can't thank him enough for being on the show. We had a great talk. It's really fun catching up with old friends and getting to do it on the show as well. You get to hear a lot of great conversations and hopefully provide a distraction from whatever, troubles you're having in your life. Hopefully not many. I like to hope that this show is a ray of sunshine in an ocean of existential dread and fear that attacks us every day. But hopefully this show has provided a nice little distraction, and I hope the rest of your day goes well too. Be sure to like and subscribe to the show, follow social media. I'm on Facebook. We're also on Instagram. If you don't subscribe already, if you like what you hear, please do so on any of the platforms you listen on. We are on Stitcher. We are on Apple Podcast. We are on Castbox. And we are on another one, which I'm forgetting. It's going to come to me in a brief moment. What's the other big one? It's escaping me. I feel as though I'm losing names of things the older I get. I don't know if it's like maybe brain damage from years of wrestling. Or something else, but I'm starting to truly worry if it's just an age thing. I mean, I'm only 36, or if it's an actual brain issue. But I do find I'm often losing the words for things sometimes, or just basic things like that come and go. And I'm not 100% concerned about it yet, but I'm getting a little concerned about it because I just realized Spotify, which is probably one of the biggest platforms in the world for these sort of things, is the other thing that I couldn't remember. So yeah, Spotify. Like us on any of those platforms if you can. And engage with me on social media. I like to talk to people, find out what they're liking about the show, what they want to hear more of, and also guests they want to suggest. I'm always open to new guests, people that have reached out and asked me to be in the show. I've never turned anyone away yet. And I will happily talk to anyone, really, as long as they're not someone that's diametrically opposed to me on almost any issue. But generally nerds all kind of flock together, so I think we'll get along. But in the meantime, make sure to tune in 2 weeks' time from now, in which we will have a new guest. Just figuring that out right now. Have a few people that are kind of in the back pocket. I think one of them is going to come through, and it's going to be great. But I will announce that on social media as well. So have a good fortnight, and I will see you next time.